Okay, welcome to the GearScout Podcast, where we talk tactical and things that go bang. My name's Christian Lowe, and with me as always is my main man, Chris Cleary. Hello, Chris.
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy to be here.
Look, we have a gigantic show this week. I'm going to tell you lots to talk about. First, we'll just go into what's going on with us in the What's Up section. I'll start off, Chris. I spent a couple days up in the great state of New Hampshire, right outside of Portsmouth, and I visited two gun companies up there. Anyone guess who those are? Yes, it is Sig Sauer, and I also had a great chance, an opportunity, a fun time with the super innovative, incredibly firearms engineering focused folks at Q, which is Kevin Brittingham's company. For those of you who don't know who Kevin Brittingham is, bottom line, he is the man behind, the brain behind 300 Blackout. He was the president of AAC and invented the amazing gun called the Honey Badger, and that was all part of a Navy program to replace the MP5, and he's zigged and zagged around the industry and started his own company, and it was incredibly exciting to meet that guy and his team. Had a great trip up to Sig Sauer, shot some cool new guns up there. Got a chance to shoot their version of the next generation squad weapon rifle, which, Chris, has a freaking badass name. They're calling it the MCX Spear.
Ooh, I do like that. That is sexy.
Like uber sexy.
Yeah.
And happy to talk about that. Maybe we should hold off until the next episode to talk a little more about that. But really fun trip to Q. Got to meet their engineers. I got to meet Nick Schaefer, who is the guy who basically is the father of the Fix rifle. I know you'll be talking about that at some point. I know you were sort of drooling over that.
Yeah, very bummed I missed the trip.
Yeah, I know. I am too, man. You would have had a blast. I met Ethan Lassard, who really is my brain was hurting after I talked with him.
You were saying that.
We were talking about the 8.6 that they're developing, which is supposed to be sort of the 7.62. Well, I don't even know. It's like the father of the 300 Blackout. So it's like trying to kind of replicate the performance of 300 Blackout in a 7.62 style platform.
But isn't that what the 6.8 was trying to go for, that the Army went for on their new gun?
I don't. Okay, so the range of the 8.6 will not be the range of the 6.8 next generation squad weapon. The 8.6, the way I understand it, again, my synapses were like, it was like I'd run a marathon in my brain after talking to these guys. But Ethan, the way he explained it is, how do you suppress a 7.62 and have it cycle properly? So that is really what the 8.6 solves. And you have a shorter barrel. I mean, you should have seen the twist rate in this thing. I mean, the twist rate was like a 1 in 3 or a 1 in 2 or something. I mean, it was like just this, you look down the barrel and it's like this tight as shit swirl. I mean, it was wild.
And which gun was this again?
So that's the 8.6. They're calling it either the 8.6 Creedmoor or the 8.6 Blackout.
Yeah.
They haven't made it up yet. So it was like, I was kind of having a hard time keeping up. And then I met another one of their engineers, Brian McDonald, who is totally awesome too. And really the care and the attention to detail that they put into their cans, I'm 100% gonna get a can now from them. Now the problem is, what do I do? Do I get so they have 4 cans essentially, and then a 22 can. They have the Trash Panda and the Thunder Chicken, and those are .30 caliber cans that accommodate a muzzle device, right? Their cherry bomb muzzle device, and then they have the full Nelson and the half Nelson, and essentially they're just longer and shorter versions of each other, right? But what I hear is they're going to be coming out with a 6.5 can, and that's what I would probably run this can on. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, should I wait for the 6.5 can, or should I just go ahead and go with a half Nelson and satisfy my desire right now?
I wish I could help you there. You, as the guy that seems to have access to that stuff considerably quicker than I do. Again, jealous.
I don't know.
I was tracing the can fantasy for quite a long time, but as the impulsive guy that I am, I've never had the time to wait around the 6 months for the Form 3 to clear. But had I only done it 6 months ago, I'd have it now, which is what everybody says. So I'm going to have to eventually bite the bullet and just do it.
You absolutely have to. And really just get a .30 caliber can, because you can run. Look, they were explaining to me, look, is it better to have a suppressor that it has a diameter that's keyed to your caliber? Yes, absolutely. At the end of the day, are we really going to notice the difference, particularly on standard length barrels?
The 5 decibels that it's changing?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right? Because you have to think of it a couple ways. One is signature reduction, and the other for like shooting at bad guys, but then the other is like hearing protection, right? And so and I didn't even think about this, but if you're dealing with a barrel, a 16-inch barrel and beyond, that the suppressor is going to be far enough from your ear that it's not going to really affect, a shorter can is not really going to make that much of a difference vis-a-vis a longer can. So, that's why a .30 caliber can on a 5.56 or something like that,
So what's funny about the cans, when I was researching this a while back, in the United States, it's a pain in the ass because we got to do a Form 3 to get a suppressor. In the United Kingdom, suppressors are considered safety devices for the very reason you just said. It reduces the likelihood that you will damage your ears when firing your rifle. Because we all know that firing a can is not like a silent thing you see in the movies. It is still a relatively, you hear it. It's not silent. And you could even argue loud to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, totally.
And how close you are to it.
That's right. And I mean, I heard that in Europe, it's like mandated when you go to a range that you have a suppressor.
Yeah.
So, well, look, I hear you have some big news. It's not necessarily shooting news, but it might be kind of cool to share with our gigantic listening audience,
yes.
What's going on with you.
So my news is a little exciting. It's actually got a little more real even today. So I will be starting a new job in a couple weeks, God willing, after the paperwork goes through and my security application gets finalized. But the Secretary of the Navy has reinvigorated the Chief Information Office within the Secretary of the Navy. And I've been asked to come and be the Chief Information Security Officer for the Department of the Navy, which covers both the Navy and the Marine Corps. So in the next 2 weeks, I'll be transitioning over to the good old E-ring of the Pentagon and fighting traffic back and forth more than I would like to, but this is one of these awesome opportunities. Now, selfishly, we get to go on some pretty interesting trips and see some pretty interesting things. I'm not going to lie to you if I'm going to tell the boss to try and nudge towards, maybe a trip up to Dam Neck, maybe a trip out to Little Creek, maybe to go see all those snake eaters and get to mess around and play with their toys.
Because you got to do that before, right, Chris?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
That's like part of your, you had the full training when you were working for JSOC, right?
Yeah, I definitely got to mess around and do the shooting classes. Now I also I'll be working with the Marine Corps. So think of all the different Marine installations, get to mess around on some of their gear, crawl on some tanks, shoot some Bushmaster cannons out of an LAV.
Oh, so, now we're talking.
I will be looking forward to any and all goofing off that I get to do as an executive when I go down to these bases. the end all be all would be pulling the trigger in an F-18 Super Hornet, firing my M61A1 6-barreled 20-millimeter cannon. So if I get to pull the trigger on one of those bad boys,
I mean,
that
how
would be
does
the
a
epitome.
chief information security officer get a chance to fly in a Super Hornet and fire the guns?
At the level, you kind of get a familiarization thing. So you'd be surprised the sort of things you get asked to do and say, hey, I'd like a ride in a Hornet. Now, firing the gun very far from being a probability. Actually, that is a pipe dream, a huge pipe dream. But getting a ride, celebrities and stuff, even private citizens ask for rides in the back of like the Blue Angels. People go up all the time in Blue Angel Hornets. So it's surprising. So it's not unheard of. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's something I'll be pursuing.
Well, for a while there, you were like giving me shit about the cool stuff I got to do, and now you're like, oh my God, now you're the master, and I'm just the Jedi student.
Yeah, so what I'm really looking for, particularly as it pertains to this blog, is as I travel around the world and visit different units, particularly some of the the Snake Eater guys or a lot of the Marine outfits, to kind of get to see their organization, see their hardware, get to talk to the guys. And, and it's funny, and it's not completely related, but, you'd be surprised how close these, I say, kinetic and non-kinetic worlds are coming together. So it wouldn't surprise me in the not too distant future when even you guys are talking guns are going to have things that have information systems attached to them. You've already seen it with things like what's that crazy tracker gun? The one that, you never missed with.
Point.
Track point. I mean, look at systems like that require computers and different systems to be communicating with each other to make those things possible. And all those things ultimately have vulnerabilities associated with them. So that's...
You raise a good point, right? So a lot of where the military is going in terms of their optics, right, are networked, are not only communicating with, one device like a laser pointer or a rangefinder internally, but also communicating out to other units. In fact, it's a great segue. In the news, we just spent some time at Modern Day Marine, which is sort of a very small version of what the larger AUSA show is. And it's out at Quantico. It's every fall. And this year, as with many years, there's a lot of large hardware. But, as GearScout editor and GearScout podcast host, I like to kind of, move around the smaller booths and kind of find, some of these more like tactical systems and things. And one of those was a system that was like an identification friend or foe, like an IFF system that is rifle mounted. And it was developed by for the Israeli military to help identify where their soldiers were, the IDF soldiers were, and that sort of thing. And it essentially was a little pointer on your rifle, and then a receiver, like a small little kind of a radio receiver, and the pointer would have a green or red indicator if you were pointing at a bad guy versus a friendly. So, and one of the questions I asked was, what is the vulnerability of systems like this, right? Like, how could an enemy spoof that? And the Marine Corps, Chris, is really getting serious about cyber warfare and cyber Marines embedded within the rifle squads and rifle platoons and things like that. So your role and your job is getting so much more into the kinetic side of things than it ever has before. It's not nerds sitting behind a computer, drinking Red Bulls in the fob in the rear. It's no shit guys with like, handhelds on their body armor, manipulating the battlefield.
Yes, very much so. And I'm looking at the link that you attached to this thing, and it's the first thing that jumped to my mind was, when you talk about, a friend of mine used to say there's science fiction and there's fantasy. Fantasy is dragons and magic and wizards. Science fiction is something that's in the realm of the possible. When you look at what was it, HBO, Westworld, right? So now you're in Westworld and you're set up with one of these weapon systems that can identify friend from foe, and that's how it enables you to not shoot another human being, right? It's crazy how science fiction eventually finds its way into reality, and I think that site that you were talking about isn't exactly that.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, and that's a great segue into the other thing that we found, and we'll have the link in the show notes, was a new optic from Steiner that, I'll put it to you this way for the listeners. Like, you guys are all familiar with the EOTech holographic sight, right? It's the gold standard. That and the aim point are different systems, but like one kind of unit prefers one, and Delta, of course, loves the EOTech and all that kind of stuff. I tend to like the EOTech. You talked in the last episode about your EOTech Voodoo, and that I love the reticle in there. Well, think of this as an EOTech with a thermal overlay. It's about the same size as an EOTech. You can turn the thermal on and off. It has a red crosshair reticle for normal firing, but normal shooting. But think about going into a dark room, clearing, and you're just looking through that optic, and you're seeing the outline, a thermal overlay with very good resolution. It's not just back in the day where the first sort of thermal optics had like yellow or green blurs and blobs. This is no shit outlined. Unbelievable how small and light this thing is. I mean, it is no
I'm looking at the
joke.
picture. It's crazy. Yeah.
And so we took a video of this. You can find it on militarytimes.com. The damn thing has 1 million views on it on Facebook. I mean, people were going bonkers about this thing, and it is a very cool piece of gear.
Yeah, I would turn the video on if I would be afraid it would blog out our audio right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something that is 100% in the realm of the possible. Whether it's marine proof or not, I do not know. But certainly the miniaturization of these things, I don't what is it called, Boyle's law or something like that, like the exponent, I forget what it's called. Someone will correct me in the comments.
But Moore's law.
Moore's law, right? So the logarithmic evolution of computation and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just like things are miniaturizing so much quicker. I mean, what was it, like 3 years ago? The Army was working on a combo image intensification, right? So your typical night vision capability, right, where you intensify the ambient light with an IR combo on that, I'm sorry, not an infrared, but a thermal combo, and the thing looks like, one of those old Band-Aid can kind of things hanging from your eye. I mean, it's huge and it's heavy. This thing, I mean, come on, it fits. It's like no bigger than an EOTech, and I'm just blown away by it. So at Modern Day Marine, there were a few systems like that. Of course, there were a lot of large systems, and there was one that really kind of scared the crap out of me. There was you'll appreciate this. There was a model. It was a scaled down model of it's basically like a drone Osprey, a tilt rotor UAV. And here's the thing that kind of will get people kind of nervous, and it got me nervous. It had like 8 Hellfires, 4 on each wing. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. But then underneath the fuselage, so along the belly of the fuselage, was a Sidewinder. And so I thought to myself, not a Sidewinder, a Sparrow. And so an air-to-air missile. And so here's what I thought when I looked at it immediately. I was like, let me get this straight. It's a robot designed to kill people and defend itself from people, right? I mean, we're sort of getting into Skynet zone here.
So Look at, if you've ever seen that video of Boston Robotics with that robot jumping up in the
I mean,
boxes
that
and
thing's scary.
going
The
down the
mule.
stairs. The only thing, every time I see that video, I respond to it and I put in the text, I go, has nobody seen the Terminator? Like, why are we making this thing?
And you're in that business though, Chris, man.
Yeah,
Like, that
I,
scares the heck out of me. You're going to be
it
starting to get
scares
into
the heck out of
AI
me.
and all that.
For you readers out there, and I don't have the book right in front of me, or I would say the author, it's at my office, but there's a good book called Theory of the Drone. It's written by a French author who goes to talk about drone warfare. And that particular thing that you're describing is what's going to allow, machines to fight machines. And we might get to the point where, our machines fight their machines. And it's like that we have our champions. It's like battle bots. My robot's going to go out and fight your robot, and whoever wins will be the victor. And this is kind of where this book sort of goes. And we've already seen it with the introduction of drone warfare, and more importantly, the separation of the physicality of you being in the battle space. If I can remove you and you can be sitting in a booth in Nevada, flying a drone in Afghanistan with a missile on it, well, I can keep the adversary at risk while keeping myself completely safe. And we're going to see warfare continue to go in that direction to increase lethality to our adversaries while reducing our own mortality rates in the field. So it's scary, but it is coming.
Until the robots can start building themselves and learn to protect themselves, that's when it starts getting scary.
I'm going back to there's fantasy and there's science fiction. Terminator is much more science fiction than it is fantasy, and that's what is scary about the Terminator.
Well, so that's a perfect another perfect transition into our under the rug segment, because maybe at some point we'll need to defend ourselves against the Skynet robot warriors and be that last vestige of human existence.
That's right.
So for this episode, I want to talk about a new nice little box that I have sitting up there, and this neat little case that's sitting in my safe right now. It is the Archon Type B handgun. Okay, so I have a very good friend who's doing some work with those guys, and said, hey, let me throw one your way and have you take a look at it. So stay tuned a little bit. In the next few weeks, I'll have a download video on that on our GearScout YouTube channel. But this Type B, this pistol from Archon Firearms, which is based out in Las Vegas, it's a cool little story. I mean, it's a small shop out in Las Vegas. I met them. They were at the very far end of the range day, the media day at the range, just the day before SHOT Show starts. And every year there's someone that makes a splash, right? And a couple years before that, it was the Hudson H9, that 9mm. Yeah. That 9mm
that I wanted so bad that went out of business. I still want one.
Went belly up. They went belly up. Yes, they did. But that was a cool gun, right? I mean, it was.
But I'll pick one up in a gun show when somebody's trying to get rid of one.
And I thought about that too. I found one at a shop nearby in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and I asked the guy, so how many people do you think will buy this? Because there's going to be no customer service support for it, and there were some problems with it. But essentially, that Hudson H9 was a 9mm striker-fired handgun with basically a 1911 action, and trigger and stuff, and it was totally awesome. But anyway, same kind of story. Fast forward 1 year, met these guys from Archon out at Las Vegas, and they have this handgun that really is one of those deals where they've lowered the bore axis to insane amounts. The action is slightly different. Obviously, I can get into the details. I'll have a link in the show notes, and I'll get into the details when I do a video about it. But it has all of the kind of whistles and bells that you'd expect on a high performance handgun, right? Like a flat face trigger with a really cool angle on it, stippling on all over the grip module. Really nice sights, although the one thing that I noticed right off the bat that I don't like about it is it does not have an optics plate on it. That kind of bums me out as someone whose eyes are failing.
That's your thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been relying a lot on red dots, but it ships with like 4 magazines. I mean, it's a really cool piece of gear, and I'm anxious to shoot this thing. Look, here's the deal. I mean, we've said this before and we'll say it again. I'm a solid 49th out of 100 in my pistol matches. I need all the technological help I can get. My good friend Trevor Schooneman, who's an awesome shooter, and you know him as well. We've done some shooting with him. He always laughs that like every time I show up at a match, I've got a different gun. It's just sort of the problem with my job. It's like the good and the bad of my job. I'm always trying something different, so I never get used to any one thing. But I am always looking for that extra like little bit of technological advantage. Look, I'm not a sucker for bullshit, but when I see something that I have a reasonable expectation will increase my performance, I'm willing to try it out, right? So I'm looking forward to shooting this thing, and I'm running a bunch of rounds through it and seeing how it does. In fact, I threatened, I mentioned to you that I'm threatening to use it in day 2 of our upcoming 2-day match.
Yeah.
Where first day is rifle pistol, second day is pistol shotgun. And so I might run that in that day because I usually flail on that day anyway because I'm spilling shotgun shells all over the floor or all over the ground. So anyway, I'm psyched about that, and it may end up being something that I have to hide under the rug from the wifey because I may have to add that to my inventory.
So I like it. So talking about gear under the rug. So, and this is going to be a combination gear under the rug / zombie training environment. So, I like running that Travis Haley chest rig, 4 magazines, 4 pistol magazines, but, wearing it throughout the day, it gets a little heavy and it's a little more than you need. Well, Travis Haley came out with basically what he calls the micro rig, which, it just takes his chest rig and it cuts it down to maybe 3 AR mags instead of 4, 2 pistol mags instead of 4, and he opened the pouch up a little bit, and it makes the admin pouch in the front a little more friendly. You can do a few more things with the admin pouch than you could on his chest rig as it exists right now. So that, in combination with actually running the pack. What I found for the zombie match last time we did it is, you end up running a pack that's got more stuff in it than you really need. It slows you down. So I'm really been eyeing, and I might be hitting purchase soon, and hopefully it shows up before the event, where I've got this new chest rig, carry a few less things up front in conjunction with the pack. So now you're running just one complete set, all integrated, and we'll see how that runs. The pack can run a little lighter, a little leaner. I think that's to carry everything you need for the day.
I think that's a good call. How does it attach to your body?
So it would actually, once it's on the pack, it would go on very similar to picture body armor, right? Picture over the head, any kind of body armor. So you would have, it's the chest rig is connected to the backpack. It's one piece. You'd pull it all over your head, and then you'd have some around the abdomen.
Oh, so it's a combination backpack chest rig.
Yes.
Oh, I like that idea.
Or you buy the chest rig, and if you get the backpack, it's clipped, so you can take the chest rig, clip it into the backpack, and now it just goes on in one piece.
Oh, I'm full on in on that one. That is a great call.
Now for this week, I gotta look and see what I can get. I'm definitely thinking about getting the backpack, so I want to run it.
You got to make it happen, dude. What's your problem? Come on, you got to go full on with that.
I'm trying.
It's key to performance. It's key to your performance.
It is key to my performance. That is really what matters the most. Is key to my performance at the zombie weekend.
Now here is the key question though, Chris. This is really where you got to come down to brass tacks.
Yes.
Wolf Gray or multicam?
So I'm a neither guy. I actually went FDE.
Oh,
I'm
really?
more, yeah. I think that kind of, like FDE has become sort of like the little black dress of the tactical community. It seems to go with everything. Multicam, I think, is a little too. You got to be in the woods.
Yeah.
You don't want to go black. It's a little too. I'm
SWAT.
trying to be. I want to be a spy or a
Right.
British commando.
Right.
Um, Although the wolf gray is kind of
I'm
cool,
a
I got to
wolf
admit.
gray guy. I'm a wolf gray.
The problem is I've already got the FDE and the chest rig, so I have to go FDE on the backpack.
All right.
But if I might change it up for the micro rib. I don't know. I'm also a Ranger green guy.
See, and this surprises me, Chris. I got to be honest with you. With your Navy lineage and the
Yeah,
Marine Corps kind of influence, Coyote is always the way to go. Like, I don't get that.
Well, don't they call Coyote that the FDE, the
Flat
Dark
Dark
Earth,
Earth?
and Coyote? Isn't that
Okay,
the same thing?
fair enough. Maybe that's the nerd in me. FDE is an Army color, and Coyote is a Navy Marine Corps color.
Oh, let me back up. I'm sorry. Then I'm going Coyote, the
Okay.
tan.
All right.
That it seems
Fair
to go
enough.
with everything.
Fair enough. At least you're being loyal to your service, okay? And I don't disagree with you. I just am not like aesthetically a big fan, and I figure if I need any of this shit and the shit goes down, it's gonna be urban, and so I gotta go
That's right.
wolf gray.
And multicam in an urban environment looks a little too. You're trying too hard.
Yeah, that I agree, but I have a thing for multicam, so I will admit that you'll be seeing me running a new sling on my MCX,
Yeah.
and I went ahead and got the no joke Blue Force gear with the padded strap instead of just the flat strap with no padding on it.
So here's the other little plug I'm going to put in for this Haley micro rig.
Yeah.
Got to go to the website and check it out, because the pouch where you'd put your magazines, it's an open pouch, and you'd put inserts in there. So you could put like MP5 mags, 4 of them, 5.56 mags, you put 3 of them. But if you want to run a 308 mag or something bigger, you'd put 2 of them in there. But one of the configurations, I got to admit, that appeals to me on his website shows it with 2 308 mags, a multi-tool, a flashlight, and then the admin pocket, he's got like a Kestrel wind gauge, a rangefinder, and a small pair of binoculars. So it's also set up really nice if you were a hunter and you wanted to just, if you were hunting, you had to just 1 extra magazine, or even you could throw your 2 magazines in there.
Your binoculars in there.
Your binoculars, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a nice little, what you need, or you could set it up for long range shooting.
Yeah.
Going out to the, doing out to the range.
And the key is that attachment to your backpack, which I think is great. Now, I'll get a lot of shit for this from the listeners, of course, but I tend to kind of bend the rules a little bit at this match. You're supposed to carry all of your ammo with you as if it were like you were on your own and the shit hit the fan and you'd bugged out. I tend to I know between stages I'm going to be walking past my truck, so I tend to hit the supply depot on the way to the different ranges as I walk through. But
we're all guilty of that. I think the point is they just want you to run in with a little bit of uncomfortableness. I found the first time we did it, I left the truck with way more than I needed.
Yeah.
Way more rounds, way more everything. And actually, the rule that I wanted to get them, I was talking to some of the judges on it. Because if you're on the run and you just finished a zombie engagement, you might not load up from where you left off. So I thought it would be interesting that however you finished shooting your gun, whatever it was, you had to start the next match like that.
I think that's a great point.
So if you've had 15 rounds and you fired 7, when you start the next match, you start with the last magazine you were using.
Yeah, the next stage, you basically have to reload with whatever's left.
Whatever
right?
you run out of stage A, you're running to stage B, you've got, whatever, you're not Winchester in any of your guns.
Yeah.
You get your next contact, you get, and boom. But
I think that's a clever idea. I'm surprised you didn't
I mentioned it. I'll mention it again this year, and
Well, I would have
we'll see what
emailed
they
the
say.
guy who's running it and maybe mentioned it. I don't know. I think of all, that is a great idea. I don't like, I mean, the idea of having to carry all my ammo between all those stages, because Jesus Christ, you'd have to have for me, because I waste so much, you'd have to have like, an internal frame pack for a 3-day pack or something on. But I think that's not a bad idea. And in fact, as we kind of talk about this, it's a perfect time to sort of give everyone a training update. What have you been doing over the last week or two to get yourself ready?
So I admit my training regimen has fallen off a little bit.
Come on, Chris.
We've been talking a lot about the dry firing, right? So I'm gonna do one more little thing on the dry firing. I bought my cool fire trainer. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but I still got my little dry fire trainer.
What did I tell you?
Yeah, I know. I still got my little dry fire targets in the basement, and I am looking at this Glock Reset Trigger.
Okay, what's that?
It allow you to just, there's a lot of different dry fire trainers out there, but this Glock Reset Trigger, it's a special trigger you drop in. So every time you pull the trigger, it will reset as if the slide cycled. So some of those dry fire triggers you just put in like a funky magazine that just puts a little bit of tension on it, so there's no break on the trigger. This allows you to have an actual break on the trigger. So, some of these dry fire trainers are just spring loaded, and you're working your finger, but unless you can feel the break of it, I don't think you're getting the full benefit, which is what I liked about the cool fire trainer. You were getting blowback and you were using the actual trigger in the gun. So at least it was, again, you're running a 3.5 or 4.5 pound trigger. You're using your trigger. This is a drop-in trigger.
Yeah. So how do you, I mean, that takes some.
You do. So the difference with this is you physically have got to remove your trigger from your Glock, which I'm a Glock guy, drop in a whole new trigger and a spring, and now, it won't fire, obviously. The trigger won't allow to fire. But it's more accurate training because of the break, and you don't have to then cycle the slide every time you want to.
I like that idea. I mean, you have enough Glocks that like you could almost,
set one up as a trainer.
Yeah, you could set one up as a trainer, right? And at the end of the day, the grip angle, the only difference for some of your Glocks is just the length of the slide, right? And so
that's basically it.
Right. And what would the variation be? The variation might be like a millisecond of draw time, maybe. I mean, come on.
Maybe.
So and then of course your sight alignment and that sort of thing, right? But at the end of the day, the difference between a Glock 19 and a Glock 17 is not that much, right?
Nope.
So, and you've got, I don't know if you have both of those, but I know you have like, I don't know all the numbers, but you
19,
have
17, 19X,
yeah,
34.
Yeah, so there you go. Set up your 19 as the and then the only thing you're kind of thinking about there is just the length of the grip, the size of the grip, right? Because the 19X is a 17 grip, right? But
basically, so 19X is what I'll be running in the zombie match,
right?
As I did last year. I'll do that again this year,
right?
I love that gun. I love that 19X.
Yeah, I think that of all of the training devices, I think you're exactly right. I think that is probably the biggest benefit, because I find the same thing you do, that like I need that trigger manipulation, right? And that even that little bit of trigger pull and snap will manipulates your sight alignment. And
that's everything. It's everything.
Yeah, and so I mean, I would think that of all of these crazy devices, because the SIRT pistol is essentially a like a blue gun Glock with a resettable trigger, right?
Yeah, and when you read a lot of these dry fire training things, the cool fire trainers seem to be the best of both worlds, because you were getting the slide to cycle. It was a blowback, which meant you had to reacquire your sights, as opposed to other trigger trainers whether you keep the brake on the trigger or it's just a rubbery feel so you can move the motion of your finger.
Right.
Those instances, you're not firing around, so your sights stay fixed. Now, you can always see the difference there between the cycle or the slide coming back is with the one where you don't have the slide come back, you definitely notice your front sight moving. That is the difference. So as you're braking the trigger, because there's no recoil, you will see exactly what your front post is doing when you pull that trigger. So there is a pro and a con to both. I think the cool fire allows you to reacquire your target. You got to get your sights going. The other one, I think, is really helping you concentrate on that actual trigger pull.
Does the trigger reset? So, snap, click kind of thing?
Yes. So with both of them, with the cool fire trainer, because the slide's completely coming back, it's resetting your trigger. And with the dry fire trainer that the Glock Reset Trigger, it's exactly that. You're getting the full pull, the brake, and when you release it, the trigger resets. Full pull, brake, each time you pull the trigger.
I like that. I think that's a great call. I do. The thing that I've been really liking recently, and particularly when we're doing live fire, are these RE Factor tactical drill cards. They're the dead man's hands shooting deck. I'm just blown away by these things. They have both a pistol version and a rifle version. The lower numbered cards tend to be the drills that you can do that are like warm-up drills. 5 shots to X kind of target. They really are paired really well with the RE Factor tactical training targets that are, I forget what they're called, but they are, have it's a large target setup that has lots of different colored, numbered, and different shaped targets on one piece of paper. And the cards, you can randomly do it, or you can kind of select a few to work on. They say things like, 5 shots to, 1 shot to every blue shape, or 2 shots to every even number, or something like that. Now, they don't have par times on them or anything like that, but, the goal obviously is to be, is to couple accuracy with time, less time, and that sort of thing. So I find it very helpful to help kind of map out a training schedule, and they offer a lot of different kind of options, and then of course there are much harder ones in the the higher numbered cards and the King, Queen, Jack, and Ace cards. They incorporate movement. They incorporate different positions. And if you wanted to develop your own training program, they're a great way to do it in a nice compact package in a metal case. I know that sounds kind of dorky, but like I just leave them in my shooting bag. And they're never going to get damaged. They may get a little out of order and all that kind of stuff, but they really help kind of get your brain set on some drills that will really help you in the long run. And so I've kind of done a little modification of that where I use those for dry fire. So I'll hang one of those targets up in my garage, and I'll run through some of those drills just dry firing, particularly with the handgun.
Perfect.
And also with the rifle, working on that as well. So I really like those things. They're a good price. I think you can get them at Amazon, so they're easy to get. And if you couple that with the targets, now the targets, for anyone that's interested in looking at this, the targets come in different models for using either the pistol or the rifle. The rifle ones tend to be larger. The shaped targets on the paper tend to be a little bit larger because you're going to be shooting at a little bit longer distance. The pistol ones are smaller because you'll be shooting a little closer. But Those are two great tools if you're going to be doing flat range work in particular. Those are two great tools to get you kind of spooled up and ready to roll, and you can just work on reducing your times and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So, and as you mentioned, I'll mention one last thing before we close here. I mentioned a couple weeks back when we were talking about Sig Sauer coming out with a, their P320 line, which is kind of like a Lego set for handguns. Basically, with the P320, as many people know, the serialized part is the trigger assembly, right? So you can pop that out and put it into new grip modules and put a new barrel and slide on it, and you've got a whole new handgun, but on the same serial number. So really, it's just one handgun. So I mentioned a couple weeks ago that they came out with, as part of their Legion series, the X5, which is a tungsten blended polymer, which makes for a heavier grip module, right? Like all the championship handgun guys have steel guns, and very few have plastic guns, right? Well, this gives you the ease and convenience of a plastic gun, but with the weight of a metal gun. And I was a little frustrated. I was just up there visiting those guys up in New Hampshire, and I was a little frustrated that I have a slide and barrel assembly for my P320 RX that won't fit the full-size grip module. And I was like, I don't want to get a whole new gun, and blah, blah, blah. And so I talked to the dudes up there, and they were like, come on, dude, just cut the grip module down. So I can cut the length of the grip module, and it will fit my barrel and slide. So I'm going to get me one of those X5 grip modules with the weighted tungsten and the nice flared magwell, and hopefully I will get it in time to run it, and it'll be my like full speed Porsche Frankensig.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I got to shoot one this past week. The problem is it was a little different because it was one of the demo models, and we didn't realize when we pulled it out of the safe, there is a steel insert in the magwell to like weight down the grip, and that had been removed. So it will be even heavier when I get it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe trying to do some mods and figure that guy out.
I like it.
So another toy to play with, But look, dude, I think we're at the end of the time hack here.
Another one, yeah.
Huh?
No, the end of another good show.
I know, right? That's going to do it for this week's episode. As always, please make sure you click and subscribe to the podcast, okay, on your favorite podcast app. Make sure you leave a review. You can find us, you'll find us wherever you get your podcasts. And also, guys, look, make sure to check out GearScout on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We got some great videos on YouTube. We have some new shows. We'll have the podcast, audio version of the podcast, obviously, on YouTube as well. We've got a new series called The Down Low, where I kind of do some, first looks and some gear reviews and some behind the scenes of some new tactical stuff going on in the market. Instagram's a great place too. That is a lively group right there, and the cool thing about that is we've got a lot more content in there of some of the places that we're visiting, the people we're talking to, some of the shows we're doing, some of the behind the scenes. Facebook, as always, is a place where you can kind of go crazy and come up with some conspiracy theories. And obviously, our website, gearscout.militarytimes.com, is where all this content will live. There's even a page there for the podcast, so if you want to download them or share them or anything like that, just look. Make sure you tell a friend. Get all the members of your personal tactical involved. We want all you guys to comment and ask us questions and let us know what we should be doing. So until next time, shoot straight, be safe, and look cool doing it.
Hell yeah, brother.